Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Williams. This is the progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. Remember, you can also send me a tweet to EGBERTOWILLIES. That is, at Egberto Williams. Let us engage. It is politics done right.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Williams, your host. Thank you so kindly for being a part of the show. We are going to have a great show for you today. What are we going to talk about today? A very important topic. You know, yesterday we did the show at KPFT 90.1 FM in Houston, Texas. And I tell you what happened, okay? I'll tell you what happened. We had a person who described themselves as a blue-collar worker who called in, and the statement that he made should put quite a bit into context, because what he had to say was a very important thing. So what we're going to go ahead and do shortly, actually, before I get into that, what we're going to start doing is we're going to go ahead and play that piece from him. But before I play that piece, I want to tell you one interesting thing that should give every single person that's listening to my voice right now some hope. All right? Things that we thought were immutable. Like let's say, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Benjamin Netanyahu, it seems like the era of Benjamin Netanyahu in Israel is coming to an end. Why? Well, so far Gantz got 34, he got 32. So therefore, more than likely, I mean, of course, the president of Israel has to decide who is the person that will best form a government. But it seems like Netanyahu, Trump's ally, may just pull it out. And let's remind you of something, okay? You know how Trump is. Well, you know Netanyahu is in trouble because of an interview that Trump just gave. Trump said, they asked Trump, hey, what do you think about Netanyahu? He said, well, you know, our relationship is really with Israel. Does Trump know something that isn't quite public yet? Yeah, Netanyahu is in deep caca. Netanyahu is in deep caca. And you know what that means? The fever, you remember when Obama used to say things like, the fever may be breaking. The fever may be breaking. I am going to go out on a limb, and folks, we'll have a good video to show you in a second. But I am going to start saying, the fever may be breaking. And I think I'm going to say for America, the fever has broken. Anyhow, what is the show about today? Let me go ahead and get to the show. Let's pull it up here. Title of the show today is This Blue-Collar Worker Illustrates Why a Centrist Just Won't Do. Again, title, This Blue-Collar Worker Illustrates Why a Centrist Just Won't Do. And if you think that is the original title, you would be wrong, because what I'm reading is the title of the blog of the week. The actual title is, for the show, Here is Why a Centrist Democrat Will Lose the 2020 Election. Again, here is why a centrist Democrat will lose the 2020 election. Yesterday, Politics Done Right at KPFT 90.1 FM Houston received a call from a blue-collar worker that illustrates why a centrist Democrats will lose. This blue-collar worker is why a centrist Democrat simply, they cannot win. They can't win. And the reason why is I want you to listen to what this guy says and what he does not say. Anyhow, it has more to do with what the blue-collar worker did not say that is much more important. It is that he knows there is something wrong, but no one is speaking to his problems that even he is not able to fully articulate. This blue-collar worker who told us he is a regular listener had the courage to call into the show and showed his exasperation. There is no remedy any Democratic centrist has for this man or people like him. Only systemic change that he understands will change his condition. In other words, when I say systemic change, I'm talking about the kind of change that Bernie or Elizabeth's talking about, Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren. Why is that the case? It's a mathematical formula, people. Math has taken its course. Let me just give a few examples before I get into the blog of the, not the blog of the week, before I get into that particular piece. Think about this. Our budget deficit has gone from Obama days of under $600 billion or so now to $1 trillion. We are already at a budget deficit of $1 trillion. How did we get there? The tax cut scam that gave all this money to rich people and a tiny bit to the middle class and the poor people, and then it took it back by the increase in rates in health insurance, increased costs, and all these other things. They took it right back with also the tariffs. All of that took back the tiny bit of tax cuts that you got was all taken away from you through these different methodologies. Now, the rich people's tax cut was fixed, was constant, was durable, and they still have it. And we have $1 trillion budget deficit. Now, $1 trillion per year, trillion. Nobody's talking about that. I just sent Ali Velci a text because he interviewed Brady, the congressman in charge of a lot of, I think, Ways and Means Committee, I think it is. Anyhow, I said, like, hey, how come you didn't ask the guy about the budget deficit? He said, well, I had 10 different things to talk about. But here's the thing. This is very important. Very, very important. When a new government comes into the fold in 2020, if it's a right-wing government or a centrist government, you'll hear all of them talking about that deficit. That is a deficit that was caused by a tax cut. That is a deficit that was caused by not having the right kind of taxes on the appropriate people. And what are they going to try to do? They're going to try to starve the average American citizen and the poor to pay for that deficit that they went ahead and grew. So who is talking to this blue-collar guy that I'm going to play now? Let's play the blue-collar guy, and then we're going to take it on the other side, because this is important. Brothers and sisters, this is important. These are the things that we have to be cognizant of. Here we go. Mike, come on in.
You know, I'm no kind of a political expert or anything by any stretch of the imagination.
Yes.
I'm just a blue-collar working guy. 53, I've been doing it all my life. I've got some good trades, you know, and I survive. And, you know, my question to you, I've been listening to you for quite some time, but I've never called.
Thank you for calling, sir.
And thank you. And what I've always wanted to bring up is, you know, I kind of feel like the blue-collar people in this country, I feel like we're being left behind.
Yes.
I feel like we're being stamped out. I mean, wages have been stagnant for years. I guess I just don't understand what's going on.
Let me tell you what's going on. And Scott, I'm coming to you next, but I really want to get to Mike. This is very important. Mike, how do you normally vote, if you don't mind me asking?
I have not voted in years.
Good.
And the reason I have not is I honestly don't feel like there's been anyone run for office that is really seriously tried to do anything for blue-collar people. What I see are people who seem to be willing to do a lot for people who have nothing, and then I see people like Republicans who seem to be doing everything for the people who already have everything.
Man, that is a magical and important statement that you say there. I mean, and that is something that you hear people say all the time. If you're absolutely poor and downtrodden, or you're absolutely rich, you're taken care of. But all of those that are out there really working, they're busting their butts and have problems. Thank you for saying that. What kind of news do you listen to?
I either listen to KPFT or at home I watch Channel 13.
Okay.
And that's the extent of it.
Okay, that's good. You asked an important question as far as you're not very political on what's going on here. Let me first tell you what's going on. There was a time in this country where there were labor unions that sort of set the standard for how in general, yeah, blue-collar workers would be treated, right? They went out there and they fought for blue-collar workers. They made sure that their wages were commensurate with the standard of living. In other words, that one person could could work in a family, the other person stay at home and take care of the kids. That's the kind of stuff that we were talking about. Now everybody has to get a job, including the kids when they're of age. And the reason why is the type of economic system that we have.
We have a system, it seems to me, where a gallon of milk costs the same as a gallon of gas.
Right. And you're right. But what I'm saying here is the system is designed to extract, right? The rich people's money grow at, let's say, 10%. I'm using examples here. The rich person's money grows at 10%, okay? While the poor person's money grow at 2%, and sometimes it doesn't grow at all. But the economy is one. So if I am taking out a bigger chunk than most of the people, what it means is I'm taking from you. Realize that every year you get a little bit of a raise if you're lucky, but all of that raise is usually taken away by health insurance rise and rise in all these other costs. Where do you think that money is going? Do you really think health insurance really increased in cost? No, it did not. What it is that they have to make so much more that they have to charge you more. And then, remember, if you were listening earlier to the show, I was talking about the puppets and the strings.
Yes, exactly.
They try to convince you that the things that progressives are pushing, Medicare for all, and all these things that are going to make your life as a blue-collar worker better, they make you believe that some other kind of folk are going to benefit. Notice the word you said. If you're very poor, you get taken care of. If you're very rich, you get very taken care of. They make you believe that these policies are not for you, but for the very poor or for those others, and then you vote against it. Now, in your case, you don't vote at all. What I'm going to tell you now, my brother, is the following. Keep listening to KPFT and keep listening to what we're going to talk about in politics going forward, and vote. And vote the appropriate way. Vote your interests.
I would not, there's the Republican end of it is out of the question. On the Democratic side, the Democrat side, who do you think
Let me first say
is more apt to do something to support the blue collar people?
Let me tell you by policy. No, I can't tell you who to vote. I'm on a community radio station, but I'm going to tell you something frankly, and I can tell you this: there are only two candidates on that stage right now. One, Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders. They are supporting a group of policies that will make your life, your kids' life, allow your kids to go to college. All those things that you'd hear everybody else say, oh, that will cost too much money. We can't afford it. We can afford it. Believe it. The numbers are there. We can afford it. Those are the only two candidates I have seen. I have read these people's platforms that say they are out to help guys like Mike, blue-collar workers like Mike. So, Mike, I can't tell you who to vote for, but I can tell you what policy says, and that's where we're at. Mike, I got some other calls I got to take.
Yes, sir.
But
thank you.
I really thank you for calling in. Keep listening, keep calling, and let me tell you, if we vote the right way in the 2020 election, life's going to get better for you, sir.
Appreciate your advice, and I'm going to take a good look at that.
You have a wonderful day now. Okay, that was Mike, a blue-collar worker that called in yesterday, and that touched me. I mean, after the show on my ride home, all I could think about is Mike, because Mike for me was a representation of what's happening, not just to Mike, not just to 10,000 people, not just to 10 million people, not just to 50 million people. I am talking about more than 80% of this country is going through what Mike is going through. Think about that. The people that run things and the people that have the power to be on TV, the people that have the power to do quite a bit, right? They are not the 80% of people that are struggling. They don't have a voice. And I keep saying, who is speaking for those people? That's what we try to do at Politics Done Right. When we talk about bringing everybody in, that's what we're talking about. This guy watches, listen to KPFT, this guy listens to other news. And one thing I can tell you, he feels like nobody was speaking to him. Why didn't he vote? Let's go to the blog of the day. And when I do the blog of the day, there's a few things that I have to say about Mike. So what time is it? We know what time it is.
It's time for the weekly blog post.
Okay, title of the blog post is, "This blue-collar worker illustrates why a centrist just won't do." In other words, why a centrist cannot win. And hear me, my brothers and sisters, including the folks who are so scared that they think they have to go to this mythical center. Forget it. It will lose. It will lose because of Mike. Mike feels there's nobody speaking to him. Mike feels that there is no one he can depend on. Mike feels that just what Biden is promising, let's just tweak here, let's just tweak there, that does not help Mike. Anyhow, a blue-collar worker, Mike, who called my show Politics Done Right, should touch every single person who listens to him. Why? One can hear the pain and loss of resolve in his voice. Keep saying, what did he not say? You could hear the loss of resolve in his voice. And by the way, folks, after the blog of the week, please feel free to call 646-716-5812. Again, that number is 646-716-5812. So, one can hear the pain and loss of resolve in his voice. To this guy, the centrism and, quote, stability of the last 30 plus years failed him and most. "I am just a blue-collar worker guy, 53, and doing it all my life," Mike said. "I've got some good trades. I survive. What I've always wanted to bring up is I kind of feel like blue-collar people in this country are being left behind. We are being stamped out. Wages been stagnant for years. I guess I just don't understand what's going on." That is what Mike just said, and Mike is right. I proceeded to ask Mike several questions. He said he had not voted in several years. Many will immediately jump on this man for not doing his civic duty and being a part of the problem. I beg to differ. I beg to differ. We have been asking blue-collar folk, people of color folk, and all these different identities within the Democratic coalition to vote. We've been saying, hey, vote. Hey, black people, vote. Hey, Latinos, vote. Hey, well, no, it's Latinx. Go vote. Hey, women, vote. Hey, Asians, go vote. We have this great coalition. Let's go vote, vote, vote. But the problem is we always seem to settle, ultimately in the long run, for someone who is under the belief that they must adhere to some mythical center. To some mythical center, some center that doesn't exist. Because there's only everything on the right that supports a set of people, and then everything else. Even the people that are voting on the right are usually an indoctrinated sect who think, for some reason, that their morality, which is a false morality, as we can see with the support of Donald Trump now, trumps even their economic well-being, their health, everything else. The mythical center has not stopped the decline of the middle class, nor has it helped the poor ascend into the middle class. Those asking that we support someone in the center like Biden or Klobuchar should attempt to be empathetic to those who realize their policies will do little to make their economic situation all but marginally palatable. In other words, those two people there, yeah, they may satisfy that 20% to the top that things are very good for me, it's all right, don't rock the boat. But most people, those that are voting on the right and the left, they feel the same way. But what do we do? The problem is people are fearful. Well, let me continue. A tweak to the Affordable Care Act that still has a $6,000 deductible and does not insure all is not appealing to anybody. Not solving environmental problems, which means that, you're drinking dirty water, you're breathing dirty air. If you're living in places like Pasadena in Houston, where we call Cancer Alley, which you have in just about every city that has chemical plants, petrochemical plants, and all the others. If You have people like Donald Trump in power saying, let's cut regulations. And in cutting all those regulations, you let all this crap in the air. Half of it you can't smell or know about, but you're killing people. And these people end up with cancers and other medical bills. And who pays the bills? Not the oil companies that have thrown the crap in the air that made them sick. But we have the healthcare industrial industry making a profit off of the chemical industries who gave the disease. Some of these same chemical industries have the same owners as the healthcare industries. So these guys are putting stuff out to get people sick who then have to pay again to go ahead and get healthy, if at all. Man, it's a racket. And this isn't superfluous stuff, or this isn't left-wing stuff. This is human stuff. This isn't left-wing. This is human. Whether you're on the right or the left, this is human. So not solving the environmental problem ain't going to get it done. Student debt, not releasing student debt. People owe so much money, they can't buy homes or anything else. But you know what? Those people who own the banks, they're happy because they just sit on their butts and collect. And guess what? Student loans, the one kind of debt that you can't go bankrupt on. So therefore, your companies can file for bankruptcies and they get forgiven. And you have certain kinds of debts, you get forgiven. Corporate debt, forgiven. But you have a student loan, baby, they're going to take it for all it's worth. No forgiveness. You have a student loan, you owe it. That's the law. So we have student debt. Nobody talks about it other than these two that I told the guy about really, really putting a hole in it, right? So if you don't have a solution for that, what's the point in voting? You haven't changed my life. Why should I get a babysitter to do that? So don't blame the non-voter until you live in that non-voter's shoe. For him, all the fight is within that 20% on the top. Continuing, we have environment, student debt, economic, racial, and criminal injustice. You don't solve that, there's no appeal there. So much more than a status quo is needed in an extractive economic system that eventually transfers the wealth of most to the few who are given or have the ability to acquire capital. It's the mathematical equation that governs our current economy, period. When purported Democrats start using right-wing talking points against progressives, it confuses the masses, which is the intent of centrists who many times are but corporate shrills. Let's be clear. When not spoken in ideological terms, most Americans are progressive based on polls. So here's the deal. I remember when blinders were knocked off of my egoistic eyes. I remember that clearly. I remember exactly when it happened. It was a graph that economist and professor Dr. Richard Wolff showed at a symposium I attended about his documentary called Capitalism Hits the Fan. I use politics done right and my blog posts to reach people no one is making the effort to reach, except for when they want their vote. If they vote, they're thanked, and you know what? After they're thanked, they're soon forgotten. They're soon forgotten after the politicians, hey, thank you so kindly for voting for me. And then they're forgotten. If they vote, they're thanked and soon forgotten. If they don't vote, they're criticized, maligned, demeaned, you name it, that's what's happening. So I see it much differently, much differently. Many of us don't just want to be convinced. Many of us don't just want to convince people like Mike to vote. We want to also empower them with knowledge so that they understand what to demand of their vote and how to ensure they get their demands enacted to improve their current situation, their current state. So, that's the blog of the week. Folks, you can give me a call at 646-716-5812. Again, that number is 646-716-5812. Okay, Maywood, welcome aboard. Edward Sanchez, Bernie 2020. Maywood, let me see. Hello from Long Beach. I'm glad to have you, May. True. My income for all practical purpose has gone down all these years. And you know what? It's not rocket science, right, May? Here's the deal. Think about this. The minimum wage hadn't changed for decades, right? For over a decade or something like that. But the wealthies, they've constantly gone up, right? They've constantly gone up in the amount of money they make. They've constantly, and when you say, how comes you can index your wages, meaning the plutocracy, the executives, they get more money, they get much more money than they deserve. They get much more money than they've earned. We have to remember, let me first tell the average American worker something, okay? You go to your company, whatever company it is, whether it's a computer company, oil company, chemical company, whatever. You guys see the executive walking in the special doors with their ties and their things, and they go into air-conditioned rooms, and they push paper. They add and subtract and multiply and divide and so forth. But you're doing all the real work. You're the one who are generating the income. But somehow they make orders of magnitude more than you. You may be making $60,000, $70,000, $80,000, and they're making a couple $100,000, $500,000 or whatever. That disparity, is that really warranted? Is that really your worth compared to theirs when they could not live without your labor? It is slavery. It is slavery. It's no different than the slave master who feeds and clothes and takes care of the health care of the slaves. You know, imagine that. A guy called me up the other day and he said, isn't it funny that even slaves had health care and we can't even get health care for people? And I said, yeah, because capitalism in the form that we practice it is actually worse than slavery, right? I mean, somebody goes into work that doesn't have a contract. They go into work and they pay for, they get minimum wage. And if they get sick, they don't get paid. They are thrown away and somebody else comes in and they work. But when human beings, black human beings and others were capital, they got good treatment. I'm not talking about from a human point of view, but from a machine point of view, oh my God, we had to make sure they were healthy. We had to make sure they were fed and clean and clothed so that their healthcare costs wouldn't be too high. But if they got sick, we had to take care of them because it was my property. We care about property in America under the capitalist structure that we practice. Capital to the masters of capitalism is worth more than you. If you doubt that, anytime we're passing a law, every time we're passing a law, the first question that is asked is, how will that affect business? That's the first thing that's asked. It doesn't ask, how does that affect humanity? And then you fit business around humanity. You have to always be careful of that. And we've learned to do that. We've learned to, even as the people that are underneath, we've learned to ask that question first. Okay, if we do that, how is it going to be paid for? Have you ever heard anybody ask how a war is going to be paid for? Have you ever heard anybody ask, how is the Trump tax cut going to be paid for? The tax cut scam, I should say, how it's going to be paid for? You know, when Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez started to speak about modern monetary theory, I have a video on modern monetary theory where I actually interviewed an expert on that. And modern monetary theory said expand the money supply to keep people employed, right? Because the current economy that we have, if you have an economy where there's a lot of work to do and there are a lot of people without work who could be doing that work, and you can't connect the two because you claim there's no money, then what you really have is an economic system that's a failure because you can't connect work with the people that are available to do work. Modern monetary theory cleans up that sort of thing. There's always full employment if you want it, and you can always control superinflation by withdrawing money out of the market. I mean, there are a lot of ways. Modern monetary theory is not a theory. It's just how things work. And in fact, we do it right now. If you take a look at the $1 trillion deficit, this economy is being propped up by that deficit spending, right? That's the only reason the economy is doing well, because there's more money being spent than being produced. It's that simple. But they won't call it modern monetary theory. They just call it that we are budget spending. What I try to do is bring some honesty by saying, hey, how can you be talking about how to pay for something when you have this budget deficit? Okay, let me go to Maywood again. I went from minimum wage earning enough to pay rent, eat, and put a little away to making much more than minimum and still not able to pay rent, cover all my bills. May, that's what I was talking about. You get a raise. I have another video called, it's on the insulin story, okay? So if you look it up on my egbertowillies.com, just look insulin and I think pricing power. The only people in this country that ultimately succeeds are those who have what's called pricing power and those who work immediately for those who have pricing power. Let me give an example of what that means. What that means is the following. If you have a corporation has an executive class in that corporation. That corporation, for all the products that it sells, it has pricing power. In other words, it determines what people will pay for the product. And people say, oh, well, the market will dictate. That's hogwash. If you're selling something like gasoline or water or these different things, the market don't dictate a damn thing. What happens is you have to have it. You have three monopolies, and the three monopolies go ahead together. You notice gasoline always have the same kind of constant pricing among everybody. Forget about that stuff about, oh, the market will handle it. It's crap. It's crap. It's crap. But let's continue. Pricing power is as follows then. What we have then is the executives in that company have what's called pricing power. They determine what people are going to pay for something. So let's go ahead and say, okay, what happens here is that the employees finally won a wage thing that they say, okay, we're not going to work unless you pay us X amount of dollars. And then the company say, okay, we'll pay you X amount of dollars. And then the next thing they do is they raise the price of everything else, right? And why? Because they have pricing power. And since you still have to buy, I give you the money just to take it back away. And you may say, oh yeah, but it's a different company taking it away. Take a look at the shareholders of all these different companies. That is how it works. There are the masters in capitalism, the masters, the big time executives at the top, and then there are the wards of the plutocracy, the ones that do the numbers for them. In other words, there are the guys at the top and the ones that do the numbers. The other high-end people are folks like, they try to keep the engineers happy. They try to keep a group of people happy, not by giving them a totality ton of money, just enough so that they can have that nice home, that nice car, and with a fear in them that if they buck the system, that will be taken away. Remember, it's a coercive system for a few, and it's controlled by only a few. It's not democratic. When you take a look at what Elizabeth Warren has proposed in responsible capitalism, I think it's called, or something of that nature, when she talks about having employees on the board. Every company has to have the employees on the board. And there are several other features, right? It goes this way, stakeholders. All stakeholders must be a part of the corporation. I mean, a corporation is a separate entity. So a right-wing person came out with an article and they said, oh my God, Elizabeth Warren is going to destroy capitalism. She's going to destroy the old people's wealth. How is she going to destroy the old people's wealth? Because now their stocks won't appreciate as much as it would have without her. And you know what? They're probably right. The stock won't appreciate as much because here is the deal. Anybody who owns stocks owns all the evil that corporation, all the good and evil that corporation is doing. So if that corporation abuses employees to make a bigger profit and to pay a bigger dividend, your economic success is based on indirectly being the slave master. So I mean, a lot of people don't quite get those combinations, right? And it is important. It is important that people understand these little features, if you will. Because unless you do, all the things that these people tell you suddenly start to like, oh, well, we can't really do that. No. Let me first tell you guys everything. There is enough money in this economy, completely enough money in this economy for every single American to live a darn good middle class life. The fact that Elizabeth Warren can take 2%, she can tax capital. In other words, listen to this, folks. This just tells you the obscene amount of wealth in the hands of a few. She can apply a 2% tax on the wealth of the upper 1%. I think it's either 1% or 0.1%, I don't remember. But this is how obscene wealth is in this country. She can apply a 2% wealth tax. Remember, their wealth is growing at greater than 5 or 10% per year, okay? So she's saying, look, we're going to tax 2% of your wealth. Well, Americans, you get taxed for your home. If you live in a $300,000 home, you're paying probably $8,000 in taxes. What is that? Think about that. You're paying something like a 2% tax. So when they talk about, oh, that is bad, we can't be paying that tax. Why not? You're asking the average middle class person to pay that capital gains tax themselves on their homes. And half the times, they don't even yet own their homes. You would think that the bank, since the bank still owns the home, that maybe they should be the one paying the taxes. But no, it's the people who live in the home that's paying the taxes. So what we're trying to tell you people is the coercion is there. Let me start answering some of your questions and I'll continue. And if you have any questions, just put them out here. I'm looking at a combined view here, so you can put the questions either in Facebook Live. This only reads the Facebook Live under Politics Done Right with Egberto Willies page. I don't think it shows me the messages from the other pages. And also, but it does show me all of the YouTube questions. And if you want to call in as well, you can call 646-716-5812. I love to get calls as well. I can actually take 50 calls at the same time. So there's never a busy line here. Actually, I can take more calls with my setup here in my studio in Kingwood than I can with the KPFT in Houston, which can only take 6 calls at a time. But here I can take 50 calls at a time if necessary. But anyhow, here's the deal. Let me answer some of these questions. All right, let's see. I answered that about Maywood. Let's see what else. Daniel S. agreed wholeheartedly. He also says, I have triple skills, but still make the same after 3 decades. And the reason why is you have the skills, but you don't have price and power. It's all about having price and power. You are not the person who can say what the product is going to cost. And that's the issue, right? Okay, and it's even worse in retirement. I understand that. Let me tell you, personally, I had a software company. I did very well in a software company. I haven't done it in, officially full-time in 8-10 years or so. I've been doing this political activism and really trying to change the world. And I tell you, I've gotten poor attempting to change the world. But you know what? I have a daughter, and I want to leave her with a world worth living in. And also, I just could never. Like I said, I had price and power. And it's amazing because when I realized it and said, wait a minute, price and power means even if I sell something to Boeing, even if I sell something, ultimately it's not Boeing paying it. It's going down to the lowly person who has no price and power. So I am complicit. And in figuring out my complicity, I had to say, you know what? This system is not a moral system. And what I do is I try to, like I said when I spoke about Mike, Mike really got to me. Mike really got to me. Because when Mike started to talk about he's doing everything right, and when May says, I went from minimum wage to earning enough, minimum wage where she earned enough to pay rent, eat a little, and put something away. And now she makes a whole lot more and can't survive. It's a math problem. And it's a math problem that we always knew about this economic system. We always knew about it. But there's such a resistance to really, we've been so indoctrinated that we are unable to say, oh my God. And then, if you're one of the wards of the plutocracy, if you're an executive in a corporation or so, you sit back there and you think it's okay. And folks, I'm not talking about the person who owns a pizza shop, a person who owns a weightlifting store, you guys are the bastion of free enterprise. That's free enterprise, where you go out there and you work as hard as you want to work to make it, right? But the corporation is a different animal. It's a living being. It has its own voting rights. It's its own person. And when I say it has its own voting rights, that's what I mean. It has more votes than you do. I'll go into that at another time. But the structure, friends, my brothers and my sisters, the structure. I mean, I work for corporations. I have friends that work for corporations. What I tell friends who work for corporations, invest in making a better system. You don't have to leave the corporation. What you do is you invest in folks that are trying to make a better economy, like what we are doing here at Politics Done Right and many others. But anyhow, let me continue with the folks. And it's even worse in retirement. Daniel says he agreed wholeheartedly. I triple skills. I got that already. He agrees that it is in fact slavery. Well, and by the way, I said slavery quite a few times, and I interviewed Dr. Richard Wolff, and Wolff said, yeah, it is slavery. And then he went and gave the complete expose between slavery, feudalism, capitalism, socialism, communism, and we had that great discussion. You should check that out. Richard Wolff on just go to politicsdoneright.com and look for Richard Wolff, or you can go to egbertowillies.com and scan for Richard Wolff. It's a nice interview. Daniel says, that's true, a coercive monopoly of capitalism. We are their capital. Yeah, and you see, that is what I want people to understand, right? There are some people that are working for corps, and they think, oh, they love me, or oh, I love Corporation X, or I love Corporation Y. And, you know, I remember, let me tell you, I've worked for Daniel Industries, I've worked for McCullough NL Industries, I've worked for Ford Aerospace, I've worked for Lockheed, I've worked for Planning Research Corporation, I've worked for NASA, I've worked for all these companies, right? And I always say, oh yeah, these are good companies. Yeah, but these aren't good companies. These are corporations. And I am just a cog. I'm just a cog. And anybody thinks they're any more. Anybody think that because they said, you know, I remember I had a friend that I mentioned, you know, they sent me something about a corporation sending them to a school about something about behavior or whatever. And I kind of, you know, they were trying to give me this thing to kind of say, hey, check this out. This is maybe you can use this as far, you know, they're teaching us this at the corporation. And I looked at this stuff, and I'm going to tell you, I didn't display the amount of anger that I really had towards somebody giving me a piece of crap from a corporation, which was nothing more than an indoctrination document, right? They send you to a school and talk to you about how to work together in, really what it means is how to be a slave to a particular system of performance, right? As opposed to saying how to be. Now, some of the more progressive companies used to have these policies where, you know, it's a free thinking place. You sit down and everybody have their way of saying. And what they've noticed, right, is even though that model works very well, from a financial standpoint, it's not as efficient. You know, a dictatorship is always more efficient than a democracy. Democracy is kind of messy. But dictatorship is easy. That is the reason why America claims to be a democracy, a democratic republic, but they love dealing with communists. They love dealing with dictators. They love the guy in the Philippines, Duterte. Oh, they love the guy in China. That's why we do so much business with China. We love them because dictatorships and these types of governments are much more efficient. That's why corporations are dictatorships, right? They give you but they're a different kind of dictatorship. They give you the semblance of you having power. It's one layer with power. It's a very small layer with power. But other than that, you're a slave. You doubt it? You do something where there is an easy replacement for you and see how quickly you're gone. How quickly you're gone. But you know, we have been also taught to believe that, oh, if they treat me nicely and they smile. And look, it's funny because you may have the vice president, you may have the managers or whatever, and each of them fall under a certain tier of House N. In other words, they're all a different level of masters in the executive class, right? And you have to know your pecking order in the executive class as far as where you fall and how far you can go or how independent you can be. Just like the slave, remember the guy who was the slave who stayed at home, and then he went ahead and he treated some of this, the house slave had a tendency to treat some of the slaves working harder than the master to prove his worth. And that's the deal with corporations today. But it's done with class. And that's what I always said. I told him, we were talking, I walked into KPFT yesterday, and Juan was there. Juan Flores does the Cuban Latin show before my show, a couple of shows before my show. And he was talking about how the things work and talking about America. And I said, yeah, look, America does everything that every other country does. We've just learned how to do it with class, How can we always talk morality when we were the country that wiped out an entire population of Indians, enslaved people, whipped people to build the Pacific Railroad and all of that, and we are the biggest proponents of morality in the world? Come on. You got to be powerful to be able to do that, man. And that's what we've done. We are able to tell the rest of the world how moral we are after having been done doing all those things, never apologizing for any of it, but we are the moral leaders of the world. And I love America. I love what we are going to make America into. I love what we are going to turn America into, because enough of us are here wanting to make that change. But to sit down there and sing glory, glory, hallelujah, thinking that somehow most of us are really empowered in this system, you're dreaming. And what I try to do, my goal is, let's empower us all. Let's be empowered so that we can really take this stuff over and really make this place what it needs to be. So that we can really do it. Because we can. Because we still have one vote, one man, one vote, one person, one vote. We still have it. And we can still work with it, right? We still have a small opportunity to do it. But I don't know, because with them pushing Biden, knowing that Biden is going to lose, just maybe they want another Donald Trump term, so that he can really turn us into what is it called? A fascist state. We're practically one already, but just turn us into one. I want folks to understand these things. I want you to understand that we as a society, if we don't start thinking on our own and not start going through what we're indoctrinated about, if we don't stop it, we're in trouble. We're in big trouble, because there's no escaping a $1 trillion budget deficit, a healthcare system in shambles, where they don't want, I want to play you guys something, but this is important. Because I've always said the parties are the establishment, not the parties, but the establishment of the parties are the same. You want to see something? I played this a few shows before. Let me show you what establishment politics look like when you have a Republican and a Democrat both against a progressive policy that would help millions. Check this out.
Healthcare is a single issue that Democrats have a 35-point advantage on. President Trump is trying to do everything he can to narrow that down. We've taken a position so far, and the candidates have, through the process, a few have not, on basically Medicare for all, which is we're going to eliminate 150 million people's health care, and we're going to provide health care for people that just come over the border. That is an untenable position for the general election. As you know, George, I just biked around Lake Michigan, nearly 1,000 miles, through Michigan and Wisconsin, two really important states. Nobody at a diner ran at me and said, take my health care away. Nobody. This is reckless as it relates to, and you don't have to take the position to win the primary, and you're basically literally hindering yourself for the general election.
I was in central Pennsylvania yesterday and walked into a diner to get something to eat, and a woman came up to me, Governor, please tell the president to tell these Democrats to leave my health care alone. Now, this was the only thing she said to me. Then she said, thank you, and she walked away unsolicited. That part of Pennsylvania is going to be key to what's going to happen in Pennsylvania. And if the president holds that coalition and wins Pennsylvania, this election is over.
But did you respond and say, but the president wants to repeal your health care without a replacement and doesn't have a plan
I got to tell you the truth. I wasn't worried about that, but it tells you what's on people's minds.
The key point is exactly here, which is I can continue to believe the president's budget is the largest cut in Medicare ever by a president. And I don't understand. We'll talk about Medicare for all this coming debate down in Houston. Why nobody mentions the fact that the President of the United States has a Medicare cut for all. And that is his greatest vulnerability. And he pledged, and it's not just a health care issue, he pledged in 2016 he would never touch Medicare and Medicaid, and that's exactly what his budget has done.
Now, when you see a Republican like Chris Christie and a Democrat like Rahm Emanuel sit down and say the same thing, you know it's on. Let me go to the caller. Caller, you are on 314. Come on in.
Well. What's going on, man?
How am I? This sounds like my buddy, Bianchi.
Yeah, that's who it is.
All right, how you doing, brother? Talk to me.
I'm very impressed with the leading Democratic candidate, Joe Biden. He's a man of many different expectations.
You would be.
He's the front runner.
Yes, he is.
Yes.
Your point?
And where are your I think it's a conspiracy. It must be Republicans coming over, Republicans that are answering the survey calls and saying that yes, Joe Biden.
No.
You think so?
Bianchi, not at all. I mean, his 31 or 31% that he has today is really the 31%. No. There's no conspiracy here. What I'm trying to do is try to inform Americans why he is bad for the party and why he will lose. The truth of the matter, no, there are Democrats who are scared and so scared that they think only somebody like Biden can win. And what I'm trying to tell you is no, only Biden in that field, Biden and the other centrists will lose. Period. I would bet a piece of my finger on that.
Well, here's the thing. Biden will more likely get the nomination.
Okay, I think he's
and the
not
reason
a chance.
why.
Go ahead. Okay.
And the reason why is because not to come out openly and say so, but people really are satisfied with President Trump.
Okay. Wow. Okay, continue, Bianchi.
Well, yes, they are. Not to even talk about the economy, but the other issues that he's put out there and have diligently worked on, that he campaigned on, that one there is a benefit for him.
Wow. This man has never cracked 50% in rating, and you think that people like what he's doing?
People don't usually speak. They have learned to keep their mouth shut.
Oh, okay. Okay.
When it comes to him.
Really? Well, I mean, I don't think that's true. I mean, the truth of the matter is there is this fantasy that says when Donald Trump won the Electoral College in 2016 that it was some sort of anomaly. It wasn't. The polls were right. I'm trying to explain to Democrats right now that they should not fear something that shouldn't be feared. Hillary Clinton performed exactly as the polls said she would perform. The polls said it. The difference between, she came within the margin of error in every single poll, and that includes Michigan.
Well,
yes.
But here's the thing. Regardless of,
and by the way, she won the popular vote. So the fact of the matter is, two things that it's very important to tell you, Bianchi. Those people who are scared of a woman running, a woman has already won. Her name is Hillary Clinton. She just didn't perform in Pittsburgh, Detroit, and Milwaukee because she didn't go and try to earn those votes. So had she gone to try to earn those votes in those 3 cities, she would be president today. Secondly,
well, I for one didn't want to see Hillary Clinton as a president.
Sure.
I really don't want to see a female as a president myself either. I think that should be left to the male.
Bianchi?
Because I don't think that I just don't want to see that. But here's the thing.
Wait a minute. I can't leave you there. I got to ask you a question there. I mean, I can't believe you said that. You think a female?
Oh yes, I did say
country?
that. I'm not ready to see a female the president of the United States.
And why is that?
Because what you're looking at, look at your squad, look at your Cortez, look at the things that Elizabeth Warren is making statements of. Females seem like they have a issue to prove, and highly pro-abortion, and they come up like Elizabeth Warren is catering to blacks by way of a foolish concept called reparations. So you're seeing that they're able, or they're willing to kowtow to any popular topic
Bianchi,
that would win them over with a particular group.
I'm trying. I'm a very civil guy. I'm trying. I used to just consider you a conservative. Now I'm concerned. I used to just say you're a conservative, and because of your conservative values, you say certain things. But now I am concerned about more than just your conservative values. Anyway, go ahead, continue.
Well, see, I observe things different than you are.
Yeah, you are, definitely.
Yeah. So, but anyway, I appreciate what Donald Trump is doing.
Well, thank you very much.
And I want to see him have another 4 years, and maybe another 8 years if we could pull that off.
All right, Bianchi, I gotta go.
The right path.
I gotta go, my dear brother.
Yeah, please do so.
Boy, you
all right, bye-bye.
You hit another one today, brother. Oh my God, I can't believe my friend. Well, when I say friend, I don't know him personally, but he calls in several times. I can't believe he actually said that. I am embarrassed for him. I'm sorry, but I'm embarrassed for him. For somebody to say that, I'm really embarrassed for him because I don't think he understands what he really said. But anyhow, look, we're at the end of the show, and I want to thank you guys for hanging with me, for staying with me. Before I go, give me 30 seconds to go ahead and ask you to please consider going to patreon.com/politicsdoneright. That is patreon.com/politicsdoneright, and become a subscriber to our show. We really do good work, not only here every day in the studio, but we go out there in the field as we did. We were right there on the floor, the debate floor, bringing you the stuff directly from the Texas Southern University. So please go to patreon.com/politicsdoneright, patreon.com/politicsdoneright. Or you can just go to politicsdoneright.com and click one of the buttons to help grow our movement. Folks, you're not going to hear the things that you hear here at all. You won't. And the reason why you won't is because we are only indebted to you. The truth to you. If you go to my patreon.com/politicsdoneright, I have a message there that I tell you what we're all about. Please go, patreon.com/politicsdoneright. I tell you who we are, what we plan, a 10-point plan that we've executed this year. There's only one thing that we haven't gone through, and that is the multiple visual chats that we promised to have. What I think is a lot of people are shy to come on camera, so even though I subscribe to that network, I may go ahead and cancel that one until we build up where more people want to do have like 50 people on the cameras at the same time. We just haven't been able to get there yet. Patreon.com/politicsdoneright. Look, I thank you guys so kindly for being here with me. Thank you for those of you that are supporters. Thank you for those of you who would like to support and can't. And I want to humbly ask all of you who can, it's very inexpensive to support progressive, independent media. We are doing our job. We ask you to be a part of the movement so that we can get this thing done. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right. And you know how I end this baby. I am what? Out!
Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Williams. This is the progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. Remember, you can also send me a tweet to EGBERTOWILLIES. That is, at Egberto Williams. Let us engage. It is politics done right.
1, 2, 3, 4.